What's going on, guys? It is me, Tyson the Trainer, back with another video for you. And today we're going to be talking about if you can't diet, stepping away from dieting. Now, this is a very hard thing to do, especially if you're an athlete who is trying to, remain quite relatively lean, or you think you want to get leaner for a sport, like for your sport, or for a competition coming up, or whatever it's going to be. And one thing we need to learn to accept is that sometimes the cards are not going to be in our favor. Sometimes we're going to want to be able to push it hard and get into a good mindset and all that fun stuff. But for some reason or another, the body just does not want to play the game. Okay? And that is a great sign for us to actually take a step back and breathe if our body doesn't want to play the game. If it's just constantly feels like you say you want to start again Monday and then it doesn't happen because for whatever reason, or by Wednesday, you've fallen off track again. Sometimes that is just it's just what it is, and we can't put our mind to it. People have achieved results before, or you've probably done a successful dieting phase before, or whatever it is. But unfortunately, again, like I said, just the body, it's not even, logically you're like, I want to diet, I want to lose weight, but the brain's like, we are not doing this at the moment. And if that is coming up, then that's okay, And as long as, there's obviously not a time component with you having to be a certain weight by a certain day or whatever it's going to be, then learning to accept that sometimes you just have to embrace that now's not a good time for dieting. And as much as that does suck to accept, it also just allows you to focus more again on your performance side of things. So coming back to focusing on is your meal timing correct around pre and post workout nutrition? Are you getting your daily habits in? Are you getting your fruits, your veggies, your whole grains, your protein, your dairy, all those things that make you healthy overall? Are you just fatigued from tracking for so long? Are you someone who's been tracking for ages? Maybe you need to step away from the tracking side of things and reframe yourself and get into a better headspace overall. Okay, and so it is, it's something that is annoying when we can't diet, but for some reason or another, we can't figure out why. And so taking a mental break by stepping back, breathing, thinking, all right, if I can't do this at the moment, maybe I'm going to focus on X, Y, Z, whatever it's going to be, that can actually help you set you up for a diet in the future. So you think about this as, okay, instead of thinking about dieting now because I can't, I am going to eat as much as I can to maintain my weight. I am going to make sure that I'm fueling my performance. I'm going to make sure my goals are more focused on, helping my exercise program, whether it be in the gym, whether it be your sport, whatever it's going to be focusing on that. And it's not going to be focused on me trying to lose weight, because it's very demoralizing when, you can't, focus on your deficit, especially when you feel like you want to, and it can kind of make you feel like you're stuck in a rut. But if you change your attention and you change your goals to something else, that'll actually help you get out of the rut too. Because a lot of people, when they feel like, oh, I can't diet at the moment, they get down on themselves. They beat themselves up. Like, why can't I? I should be able to. I do this, and this, and it's like, hey, at the end of the day, for some reason, the body's just saying no. And so when we can focus our attention on other goals and have other things that are just going to be supporting your health overall still, because again, doing these things like focusing on your nutrition and making sure you're technically optimizing those side of things to help with your training is still something you can focus on, because that's what we need. We need a goal, we need a focus, we need something to draw our attention to. Otherwise, that's when we start to feel lost. That's when we start to feel like we're kind of, in a way, not hopeless, but in a way hopeless. And it's like, fuck, what am I supposed to do now? And so when we change the direction and we change the goals, it will actually set you up in a better place for the future. Because what I found, a lot of people who try and diet and the body doesn't want to do it at the moment, usually it's probably because you're actually under fueling, or you're taking too much mental fatigue by tracking everything, by weighing everything to the gram, by using too much mental, or just fatiguing yourself mentally overall. When sometimes you need to take a step back. Let me say that again. Sometimes you do need to take a step back to take some steps forwards. But with that step back, it's actually not lacking progress at all. It's like, all right, I just need to refocus. I need to have another target. And when that target changes, and when you're like, all right, now I'm going to focus on eating for my performance, I'm going to focus on stepping away from tracking a little bit, I'm going to focus on enjoying life a little bit more, you're actually going to come to a point in the future when it is time to diet again, and you're going to be in a good headspace. Again, we don't know why. You may have been trying to diet for the last 3 or 4 months constantly, or the last month or whatever it is. And for every day you wake up, I'm starting again. And then by the evening, it throws you off. And so with that being said, especially when you kind of get sick of your own shit at the end of the day, you're like, I'm just fucking sick of trying to diet. I just want to stick to it. That is a perfect opportunity for you to be like, you know what? The body doesn't want this at the moment. And accepting that the body doesn't want this at the moment. Because again, like, you are someone who's probably been putting a lot of pressure and emphasis on yourself, doing a lot of extra work, always trying to fucking dot every I, cross every T, do exactly everything that needs to be done. And it can be quite mentally taxing. Or again, you could have something stressful in your life. You may have exams coming up for your study, for university. You may have a life stressor at work. You may have fucking, I don't know what could be going on. And so it's just like, hey, breathe, pardon me, relax a little bit. If you can't diet right now because of all this shit that's going on, accept that. Because guess what? You got plenty of other things to focus on. And that's the cool thing. Plenty of other things to focus on. Like everything, really. And it's like, even just having a focus of what am I trying to think of here? Like, when you say you want to have a focus on something else, the focus being health, the focus being good behaviors, the focus being supporting your performance, the focus being everything that's not going to be mentally draining is going to help you better. Or also that could be, again, not tracking. Like, have you ever not tracked before? Because a lot of people who are constantly tracking all the time, entering their food, it becomes hard. It becomes laborious. It becomes tiring. And so it's like, why don't you try and not track for a little bit? Why don't you try it and just have a little bit of a breather? And like I said, focus on the good habits. So for those of you who don't know what really habits you should be focusing on, you can look at the Australian Dietary Guidelines, or wherever you are in the world, your dietary guidelines, to get an idea about what could be a better option for you to be tracking, sorry, not tracking, to be looking at. So like, habits. So if we give Australian Dietary Guidelines, we've got dairy, we've got fruit, we've got veggies, you got protein, you got whole grains. And you start looking at those side of things and be like, how can I have this in my day to support my overall health? And especially if you haven't been fueling yourself enough, if you've been trying to diet but haven't been able to stay on track, you're probably going to have a higher chance of you staying on track when you're eating enough. Because when we eat enough, especially as athletes, with your calories being quite high, you're going to get to a point where you're like, oh man, I'm actually pretty fucking full at the moment. And that's a good thing. Like, when you start to have less food focus, daily habits shouldn't be causing food focus, by the way. It's just thinking about some things you need to tick off for your overall health. But when you start having less food focus overall, you will be able to diet way easier because the focus is gone. The mental fatigue is gone. Or again, when your life stressor changes or disappears, that's probably going to put you in a good position too. Because there is nothing worse than being fucking stressed all the time because of whatever's going on in life, and then having to add the accumulated stress of dieting onto that too, So again, this may or may not help you. It may give you a good idea about maybe you need to stop dieting. It really does depend on whether you've got a sport, not sport coming up, well, whether you've got an event coming up where you need to make weight where you may have to push it, but also at the same time, it's like maybe taking a step back and being like, I don't need to do this event. I'll wait until the next one. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Taking care of your mental health is still going to be the most important thing, right? Because without your mental health, you're going to have nothing. And if you're someone who keeps trying to push your nose to the grindstone and keep technically grinding when you can't, then it's going to be a very hard challenge for you to be able to obviously stay on track and keep that momentum going, or even stick to a diet, right? So again, just something for you guys to think about if you have been struggling lately. And also, you're not alone. A lot of people do struggle when it comes to dieting. Just because you see things on social media all the time does not mean these people are successful and are always fucking killing it and stuff like that. You see a lot of people, especially, we look at competition, which I'm not a fan of, like bodybuilding competition. All of a sudden, when they're not dieting, look, come off stage, you don't see the binges, you don't see the questioning their identity, stressing out, all these things, because all we see is the highlights on Instagram. And that's also something you've got to consider. Just because you think other people are killing it does not mean they are. All right, so I hope that was helpful. If, as always, you guys have questions, you can find me on Instagram at tysonthetrainerr with 2 R's. And until next time, guys, speak to you then.